Hi everybody, how are you? I hope you're having a good week, short week after the long weekend last weekend. I'm just going to wait a couple minutes for everybody to tune in here. I'm trying something a little different today in that I'm starting with the camera on the projects, and then I will talk to you face to face at the end of the video. I'm also trying to watch the video at the same time on my iPad so I can see your comments. Oh, there I am. It's working. So yeah, hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving. We certainly did. We had a huge turkey dinner on Sunday and went to the Rockton Fair yesterday. So lots of fun, lots of stamping time for me too as I'm prepping for my team training day this weekend and for my retreat in a couple of weeks. So lots going on. I see you've got a couple of viewers. Give me a thumbs up or a hello so I know that you're here. And we're going to get started. Today I am featuring my product of the week, which is the Falling for Leaves bundle. So here are the three projects I'm going to show you, and here is the bundle that we're going to use. So the Falling for Leaves stamp set and the coordinating die set. So these come as a bundle. I'll just show you where that is in the catalog. It is on page 45. Okay, so there's the stamp set there. And the bundle is right here. Okay, so it's 10% off. So in Canada, the bundle, it's photopolymer, is $58.50. Okay. Oh, hi Leith. I see that you're watching. All right, so I'm going to move some of these projects out of the way, and I'm going to get started with a couple quick and easy ones, and then I'm going to show you a really cool technique. So I'm going to set these aside and start with this guy here. So this is quick, and easy. All right. And sometimes we all need those kind of cards, right? Ones that we can throw together in a hurry. So I'm going to set aside my sample and pull out some bits here. So we're going to start by stamping the background of our card base. So I have here a card base that is 8.5 by 5.5, and I've scored it in the middle at 4 1/4. Okay. Oh, hi, Kim. So I'm going to fold my card base in half. I get distracted when I see people commenting. I shouldn't be looking at the comments. I should be paying attention to what I'm doing here. All right, so I folded my card base in half along my score line, and then I have some mint macaron ink. So this ink is the same color as my card base, okay? And then I have taken one of the stamps from the set, this one right here. This is one of my favorites. I love that sort of ferny leaf look. And I'm going to ink up my stamp, and I'm just going to stamp randomly, and this I know bothers some people when I say random, because we like everything straight and matchy, and sometimes random is good. We want this to kind of look like just leaves falling across the front of the card. Okay, so don't try to worry about getting it nice and straight or trying to make sure everything lines up, because we're going for random. Okay. All right, that looks good. We'll put one more down here. One thing I want to mention, whenever you're doing this kind of a look, it's really important to have your images going off the edge of the page. Okay, this is a little design tip. If I had all of my leaf images sort of crowded and not touching the edges of my card base, it wouldn't look natural. Okay, this gives a sense of motion, like the leaves are coming down onto the page and then they're falling off the bottom. Okay, so try that when you're designing and when you're stamping, and you will find that you're going to be happier with your results. Okay, all right, so there's my card base stamped. That was quick and easy, wasn't it? Next, I'm going to take a little bit of Country Lane DSP. So this it's double-sided. So this is a Blackberry Bliss, sort of almost looks like a textured linen pattern on the one side. It's got that awesome cotton on the back. This piece is 1 3/4 inches by, oh, I cut it too short. Should be 5.5. This is 5 1/4. That's okay. We'll have a slightly different look. And then I've taken and cut a piece of Blackberry Bliss that is 1 7/8 inches. Oh, look, I did it that way. Ah, see, that's 5.5. That's the right width. That works. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. So all I'm going to do is take and glue my DSP to my Blackberry Bliss. And again, I'm going to use my good old Fast Fuse. You can use the adhesive of your choice. I am just a little bit addicted to Fast Fuse. Okay, so there's my piece there. And then that I'm going to go ahead and glue onto my card front. So a little bit more here. And I'm going to attempt to get this straight without sticking my head in the camera. That can be a challenge, but thank goodness for grid paper. It does help. Okay, so next step, I'm going to add my burlap trim. Now, I've got this just a teensy bit long, so we're going to trim it just a bit. And it's just going to get stuck down. Now, you can use snail or some glue dots. I'm just going to run a bit of fast fuse along there and stick her down, just like that. Easy peasy. All right, now I have here some of the chicken wire elements. So this is what the chicken wire elements look like when you get them. You get a package, I think there's 6 sheets like this in it. And you can use an entire sheet on a card, but I like to economize, which I'm sure many of us do. Hello, Joyce from Kansas. Wow, that's, I think you win the prize for being farthest away today. So all I've done is taken some scraps that I had left over from other projects. And I'm just going to trim this down. I want a little bit of a triangle kind of look here. So I'm just going to kind of trim this down. And this I'm just going to tuck in behind. That's maybe still a little bit long, so we'll just trim this a bit. And tuck it in behind my burlap here. That's all I'm doing. I'm not actually going to adhere this at all, because once I stick my leaf and all the other bits on, it's going to stay in place. I don't need to worry about it. And then another little bit that I'm going to tuck in on the bottom, just like this. And this again is just to add texture and add a little bit more interest to my card design on the front. Okay, we'll get rid of all those bits. Next, I want to show you how I did this doily. So we have these colored doilies, you'll see here, in the annual catalog. They come, I think, in 5 colors. It's a package of different colored doilies. But on the back side of them, they're white, which means you can have doilies in any color you would like. So, whoops, I forgot my crumb cake ink. Hold the phone. Let me grab it. There we go. So I'm going to take my crumb cake ink pad and I'm going to take a dauber. Now, there are 2 ways to do this, okay? One is to just take your ink pad and go like that right on the doily, and that totally works. I don't want to mess up my work surface for all my other projects, so I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to use a dauber instead. And you can use a piece of sponge as well. And I'm just going to take and I'm going to pounce all over that doily with my dauber. Now, normally when I'm sponging, I go in a circular motion, and I'll show you that on another project in a little bit. But because I want to get full coverage of this, and because this doily is so delicate, and if I go in a circular motion, I'm probably going to rip it, I'm just kind of pouncing on it like this. Okay. There we go. And you can make it as dark as you like by just adding more ink, but that's the idea. And look at the pretty pattern that's left. Doesn't that give you a great idea for a background for a card front? Yes, it does. Stay tuned for something like that in a couple of weeks. All right, so there is my colored doily. That's all there is to it. So now I have already gone ahead and stamped the leaf image. So this leaf is this one here from the Falling for Leaves set, and I've stamped it on some more of that Country Lane DSP. So this is a crushed curry pattern. The back has these pumpkins on it, so if you're trying to figure out which pattern it is. So all I'm going to do is just put a little bit of fast fuse on the back of my leaf and stick her down on the doily, just like that. Quick and easy. Next, I'm going to take some dimensionals and add them to the back of my leaf slash doily. Yes, I'm a dimensionals addict. I know people watch this and go, oh, she's using 5 dimensionals on that one little thing. I like my pieces to stay popped and secure, so I use lots of dimensionals. So then I'm going to take and adhere my leaf to the front of my card, just like that. And by doing that, I've also secured those chicken wire bits. Okay, so they're not going to go anywhere anymore. My next step is to stamp my greeting. So here I have a little label that I've cut using the Petals and More Thinlit dies. And so it's a cute little label shape. And for this, I'm going to use my little Thankful, which is also from that set, right there. And I'm going to stamp it in Blackberry Bliss. Oh, I forgot to mention, did I mention that I stamped my leaf in Blackberry Bliss? I may not have mentioned that. I did. So I'm going to take my little Thankful stamp and I'm going to stamp it right in the center of my little label. Quick and easy. And then this is going to get stuck down on my card. Now, this, if I put this on with dimensionals on both ends, I'm going to have this sort of bump here because this is already popped up. I want this to lie flat. So what I'm going to do is put a dimensional under this end on the part that isn't popped. And this part that's going to overlap, I'm just going to put a little bit of fast fuse, or glue dot will work as well, or some Tombow. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick that down semi-straight onto my card, just like that. Okay. Last couple of steps, I have these cute little leaf trinkets. These are in the annual catalog, and I'm kind of addicted to these too. I use them on everything. But I'm just going to take a couple glue dots and stick that guy onto there. And then I had a request from a viewer to show how to tie bows. So I'm going to give you a quick little bow tying lesson. I hope you're okay with that. So here I have some linen thread. Now on my original here, on my sample, I did a double bow. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I like to work from my spool so I don't have much waste. So I'm going to take, I'll get this out of the way. I'm going to take a piece of linen thread and I'm kind of folding it in half so I have a double thickness. And then I'm going to make a loop. Okay. And I'm going to take, I'm basically tying a bow, just like you're tying your shoes, but without tying the knot. So I've made a loop. Okay, so here's my loop. Then I'm going to take and wrap around that loop and pull it through, just as though you were tying your shoes. Okay, but you don't actually tie the knot part first. And that's all there is to it. Okay, super simple. Okay, I'll show you that again. So here's my loop. Okay, so I'm taking this piece, right, the piece that is sticking out here, and I'm wrapping it around my loop and then pulling it through like this. Okay, and then you just adjust the size of your bow loops just like that. Okay, so that's one way. I'll show you another way. Second way, and this is the way I use when I'm using thicker ribbon, I'll make 2 bunny ears. So 1 bunny ear, 2 bunny ears, and tie a knot. Now I find this harder to do with fine twine like this, which is why I do the loop and the around. Okay, but I will show you really quick with some thicker ribbon how to do the 2 bunny ears. Okay, so there is my double bow, and I'm just gonna adjust the loops, snip one end, snip the other. Okay, there you go, done. Now let me show you quickly with, this has nothing to do with the card, but I wanted to show you the second way that I tie bows. So when I'm using thicker ribbon like this, okay, I take my piece of ribbon and I make 2 loops. Okay, so here I have stretched across my middle fingers like this, and I'm gonna make 2 loops. Okay, so now I have my 2 loops. The key with this is to keep your ribbon flat. Okay, I'm not letting it twist. All right, so I've got 2 flat loops. I'm going to cross my left loop over, and if you're right-handed, you'll probably do it the other way. Or sorry, if you're left-handed, you'll probably do it the other way. So I'm taking my left loop over the right, and I'm tucking it through, and I'm pulling. And there's my bow. Okay, and it's just a matter of playing with the loops and tightening your knot once you're done. Okay, let me do that again. So I have my 2 loops. Okay, and notice they're flat. There's no twisting allowed. Okay, so they're flat. I make an X, cross over the left, or you can do it the other way, but I find the left easier. I am right-handed. Okay, and then I just play with my loops until I get a nice flat bow. Okay, I hope that helps you in your bow tying. Don't be afraid to tie bows. Practice makes perfect. All right, there we go. All right, back to the card. So I have my little double linen thread bow, and I'm just gonna make my loops a teensy bit smaller. And then to adhere this, I'm just taking a glue dot, and this is what I fondly call a glue booger. So I'm gonna just take and roll my little glue dot into a little booger, and then press the knot of my bow in there, pick it up, and stick it onto my card. Done. Oh, I'm not done. I forgot the pearls. Every card needs a little sparkle, right? Right. So I've got some of our metallic pearls here, and I'm going to use my pick-me-up tool, the little spatula end, and I'm going to grab a few little pearls to stick on. Oops, that guy rolled away. There he is. And one more. There we go. Now it's done. How quick and easy was that? Easy peasy. It is so easy, Kim. It is, really. It's not hard. As I said, practice makes perfect on the bow tying. Okay, so there is card number 1. I hope you like that one. I'm going to set this guy aside. And this guy aside, just cleaning up my mess here. Make sure I have everything that I need for card number 2. All right, where did I put card number 2? There it is. All right, next we're gonna look at this card, okay? This is also a super quick and easy one, okay? I was looking actually through the catalog and I noticed on page 45 where this bundle is illustrated, I saw the copper shimmer paint in this background that they had made. And I thought, what could I do with that? So I started experimenting. And this is what I came up with. So we're going to get a little bit messy with shimmer paint. I know last week was all about shimmer paint. Well, here's a little bit more for you. I hope you're not sick of it, but I love the stuff and it's really fun to play with. All right, so I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to show you how I did that background. It is the easiest thing ever. I have a 4 by 5¼ inch piece of Whisper White cardstock. And I have my bottle of bright copper shimmer paint. It's always a good idea to give it a shake before you use it. Just make sure it's well mixed. And I have a sponge dauber. Okay. So the nice thing about these bottle caps is that they are perfectly sized to be your little palette for your dauber. So I just take and I dab my dauber in there and I've got a little palette for my shimmer paint. So then all I did is I kind of went directly with the dauber onto my Whisper White cardstock and I kind of went back and forth and then I started blending it out in a large circular pattern. Just like that. Like, how simple is that? But the cool thing is that it is super shimmery and shiny. I don't know if that shows up on the camera. Can you catch that sheen? It's really quite pretty. And because we're doing it this way, it dries quite fast. Okay, like that's already pretty much dry. We're not putting a lot of paint on there, and what we are putting on, we're working into the paper, so it dries quite quickly, which is a bonus. So that's it. There's my background. Now, I'm going to show you how I did the leaf. I'm going to give this a couple minutes to dry while I show you how I did the leaf. So here I have again a pre-heat embossed in copper and die cut leaf from the Falling Leaf stamp set. Again, I just do this in the interest of time because I got so much I want to show you, and you don't need to listen to the heat embosser, right? Right. So here is my leaf. It's just on plain Whisper White cardstock embossed in copper. Okay, so you'll notice I got some awesome fall color on there, so I'm just going to show you how I did that. Here we go. I already have my inks out. Here's my color palette for this card. Okay, so I've got Early Espresso, Pumpkin Pie, Crushed Curry, and Cherry Cobbler. So I'm going to start with some Crushed Curry. And again, I have my sponge dauber, and I find this easiest to do with a dauber because you have a little bit more control. So I'm just going to ink up my dauber, and I'm going to start right in the middle of my leaf. And I'm just going to kind of work outwards from there. And I kind of filled in, see this inner piece here of the leaf? That's what I filled in with the Crushed Curry. And you don't have to worry about going outside the lines. If you do, it's not a big deal. It's all going to get blended out anyway. Okay, so there's my Crushed Curry bit. I'm going to leave that open because we're going to come back to that in a minute. Then I'm going to take some Pumpkin Pie. And now I'm going to fill in the outer portion of the leaf. So I'm going to come on here and I'm going to go all the way around the edges of my leaf. Aren't the colors, I don't know what the colors are like where you live, but right now the colors here are just coming into their peak. It's just beautiful out. We were driving out in the country yesterday on the way to Roxton Fair, and it's just so beautiful. Of course, it's nicer when the sun is out. Yesterday was kind of drizzly, but still, the colors are just fantastic. All right, so now I've done all my edges in the pumpkin pie, okay? And you see how the fact that I blurred over the edges here, it does not matter. We're going to blend all that out, okay? Next, for a finishing touch, I added just a little hint of cherry cobbler around the edges. So I wanted to make this leaf really pop against the background. So you see how I darkened the edges? So I'm just going to show you how I did that. Again, I'm taking some cherry cobbler this time, and I'm just sort of kissing the edges of my leaf all the way around. It's kind of the part that's outside the pattern of the die cut. Okay, so I'm just kind of going all the way around the edges and adding a little bit of fiery red. Okay, now my favorite thing to do once I've done a whole lot of layering of color like that is to go back with my lightest color, which in this case is the Cherry Cobbler, and I'm going to blend out the whole thing, and that's just going to pull everything together. So I'm going to start in the middle and I'm going to work out and just pull all of that color together, and they all just sort of blend and meld and are happy together. Okay, and there is my Fiery Autumn Leaf. What do you think? Hope you like. I love fall colors. Love, love, love them. That's why I got married in the fall. In fact, today is my wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary, Donnie. 14 years for us. Okay, so that one is done. Let's pull this back in. We're going to do a little bit of stamping on our copper background, and this is completely dry. Like, there is nothing coming off there, so it dries really quickly. So here you'll see I did a little bit of stamping with that sort of branch image. So I am going to take that stamp and some early espresso ink, and I'm going to just stamp sort of in almost in a circular pattern. So I'm going to do 1 and 2, and I just got my finger inky, and 3. And don't worry about the parts that overlap here, because that's going to get hidden with the leaf. One more here. There we go. Okay. Oh, see, I got ink on the corners of my block. That's okay. We'll hide that with pearls. Ah, that's what embellishments are for. Did you know that? There are no such thing as mistakes, only opportunities to embellish. That is my philosophy. I have embraced it and I live by it. Okay. Last thing we need to do before we put our ribbon and our leaf on here is stamp our greeting. So again, I'm going to take my early espresso ink. And this time I'm taking the Harvest of Thanks sentiment from the same set. And I'm going to ink that guy up and try and get this straight, again, without sticking my head in the camera. That looks pretty straight. Close enough. All right. And now it's just a matter of layering on my other elements. So once again, I'm going to use a little bit of burlap trim. So again, I'm going to run a bit of snail across here. And stick that guy down. Okay, that's maybe a little bit long, so we can trim him down a bit. And a little bit there. Okay, and then again, I'm going to put my leaf on with some dimensionals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. I like my dimensionals. Hope you guys all stocked up during that World Card Making Day sale. I certainly did. All right, and then my leaf is just going to get sort of centered on my little branch bouquet there. And that's all there is to that. Okay, next up is to go ahead and glue that onto my card base. So here I have an early espresso card base that is 11 inches by 4 1/4, and then I've scored it in the middle at 5 1/2. Okay, and then I'm going to fold along the score line. Throw a bit of fast fuse on the back of this. And stick it down. And you're going to wonder, I'm weird. I assemble my cards upside down. I don't know why. I just find it easier to get it straight and centered. There we go. All right. So my last little touch here, again, I like my pearls and my sparkle, so I wanted to add some copper pearls. Now, unfortunately, we don't carry copper pearls, but I'm going to show you how to make your own. These are just our regular basic pearls, okay, from the catalog. And I have my bronze Stampin' Blends, okay? So this is one of the Stampin' Blends that are available in our color lineup. And I'm just going to take and I'm going to color my pearls with my bronze Stampin' Blend. Now, you want to be gentle when you're doing this. You don't want to press too hard or you're going to wreck your tip, okay? So a light touch and going over it a few times is better than pressing really hard, because you're gonna do in the tip of your blends. Okay, so I'm just coloring those, adding some nice coppery color. There we go. And then once again, I'm gonna use my new favorite tool and pick up those pearls and plunk them down where I want them. There's 1. And 2. And 3. Whoop. Come here, you. 3. There we go. design done. Another quickie, eh? This set is awesome for layering images and throwing together quick cards. I love it. Okay. All right. Now for my favorite project, which is this one. This uses a technique that I love. I've used it a fair bit, not recently. So if you go to my YouTube page, you will see some other videos that I have done using this technique, but they were dated like 3 or 4 years ago. So I wanted to showcase this technique again because this leaf image looks fantastic using this technique. So I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm not going to take the time to assemble the whole card, mainly because I ran out of copper foil sheets as I was prepping for my retreat, and I didn't have enough pieces to create another card. So I'm just going to show you this background and explain how I assembled, but it's pretty straightforward once you've done the background. Okay. All right, let's get this out of the way. We'll pull in this one. So here I have a 2 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of Whisper White. Okay. And I'm going to use many of the same inks that I did for the last card for when I was coloring my leaf. So I've got my Cherry Cobbler, my Pumpkin Pie. I've also got Mango Melody and Cajun Craze. Okay, so that's my color palette for this. All right, so I'm going to start with the lightest color, which is Mango Melody. And again, I've got my dauber. Now, for this, you absolutely want to work in a circular pattern. Okay, so I'm inking up my dauber. I tend to just blot it a little bit after I've inked it on my grid paper. That takes off a lot of the really intense saturated color. And then, excuse me, when I come onto my paper, I start at the edge and come on in a circular motion. Okay, so I'm not covering the whole thing with this color. I'm just doing splotches of color right now. Okay, and you'll notice that my color is quite intense. So for this technique to work, you want to have really intense saturated color, which is why I've chosen fairly dark colors. This technique does not work especially well with very light or pastel-y colors. Okay, so there's my Mango Melody. I'm going to set that aside, but I'm going to come back to it. Then I'm going to take a little bit of Pumpkin Pie. Did you guys all have pumpkin pie this weekend? We are not pumpkin pie lovers in this household. I know. I like pumpkin spice, all kinds of things, but I'm not a pumpkin pie gal. So we have apple instead. All right, so now I'm going to take my pumpkin pie. And again, I'm going to fill in some more of that white space. And where I'm coming up against another color, I'm going to overlap. Okay, so there's a little bit of the orange there. Let's add a little pumpkin pie here. And maybe a little bit down here. And again, I want really saturated color. Okay, next up, Cajun Craze, which is the color that gets used the most at this time of year. It's a perfect rusty fall shade. And I'm going to take my dauber. And once again, I'm going to come on from the edge and add a little bit of that color. And don't be afraid to overlap the other colors. That's where you get that really nice blend happening. Okay, and then finally, my last color is a little bit of Cherry Cobbler because we all need some of that fiery red for fall. So I'm going to take a little bit of Cherry Cobbler and add some of that. And the cool thing about this technique is that every time you do it, it's going to look different, right? Depending on how much of each color you use, depending on how heavy-handed you are, depending on your color palette. Okay, so I filled in that completely. Now, again, like I said before, on my leaf, I like to go back with my lightest color and go over the whole thing, and that's just going to pull all of those shades together. So I'm bringing in my Mango Melody again, and I'm just going to go over the entire thing, and you're going to see how all of those colors are just going to blend. To see how those are just sort of melding into each other. It's amazing what a difference this last step makes. A lot of people that try to layer and blend color don't do this step, and it kind of, I don't know, they don't layer and blend quite as nicely. Okay, how's that for a fiery fall background? All right, now I'm going to take my leaf stamp. So this is the pretty detailed leaf, okay? And this is essentially a bleaching technique, okay? So what I'm going to do now, I've laid all that beautiful ink down. Now I'm going to take some of it off. Now, you can do this with bleach, but when you use bleach, you actually get a really stark image. So if I were to use bleach on this and stamp, you would get a really stark white image on this, okay? It's going to take all the color off. Here, it's more of a ghosty image, okay? It's not as stark. So to do this, I'm actually going to use some Stampin' Mist. Now, this bottle is probably... well, I've been stamping for about 10 years. It's probably 10 years old. It has seen better days, but it still works. They are refillable, and it has been refilled hundreds, if not, well, probably hundreds of times. So I'm just going to take, and I'm going to spray some Stampin' Mist. Now, I'm going to do this off the camera, but I'm going to spritz it about this far away, okay? I'm not going to do it on here because I don't want to get the ink on, or the moisture on here, but I'm going to stamp it off camera. I did about 3 spritzes, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp that on my background. Now the key here is to hold it for a little bit so that the moisture has time to soak into your cardstock. Okay, and you can see that image starting to show up. Okay, I'm going to spritz again, just once this time because I've still got lots of moisture on there. And I'm going to add another one over here. And I wait, I don't know, probably 10-15 seconds to let that moisture really soak in. Okay. And then I'm going to do one more just up here, a little one peeking on. Okay, now if we had all day, I would let this sit and just naturally dry out, but we don't have all day. So I am going to make you listen to my heat tool for a couple minutes while I speed this along. And the cool thing is you're really going to see that image pop once the heat is applied to it. Okay, so here we go. Plug your ears, bear with me. All right, that should do it. But you see how those images now are really popping through the color? Okay, so that's all there is to this technique. Okay, I call it Stampin' Mist Ghosting. I don't know whether it has another name. I don't even know if anybody else does this, but it's a technique that I really, really love, and it creates this really beautiful soft background. Now, one other thing that I want to mention to you before we wrap it up is you'll notice on this card that I have some spatters, some coppery spatters. So once again, I'm going to pull in my copper shimmer paint, and I have this little spatter image that is from the Timeless Textures stamp set. There are lots of stamp sets that have spatter images in it. This just happens to be a rather small one. So I'm going to take my dauber. Did you know you can stamp with shimmer paint? I hope you did. Well, you know now. So I'm just going to take my dauber, and I got a little too much on there, so I'm going to just blot that for a second, so I don't end up with a big blob. Okay, if you get too much, just stamp it off a couple of times. And then I'm going to take and just stamp with that image around the edges. And again, I want to be turning my stamp. I don't want to have I want them to look random. I don't want to have a regular pattern of spatters. Okay, a little bit more. And you'll notice I'm not picking up more ink every time. I'm just applying it with the dauber, with the ink that's already on the dauber. There we go. You could add more in the middle if you wanted. I kind of like the look of it just around the edges because I don't want to draw too much attention away from the leaf. But you can add as much or as little as you want. But there is a beautiful fall background. You like that? I hope you do. Thanks, Kathy. So obviously all I did was layer this. Now this is on a copper layer here. So this piece was 2 2¼ by 5½ So this piece here is 2½ by 5½ this copper piece. Okay. My card is the same size card base as I did on the last one. So if I open it up, it's 11 by 4¼ scored at 5½ Okay. And then on the front, I actually cut a 5½ by 4¼ inch piece of early espresso cardstock that I embossed with the Pinewood Planks embossing folder to get that texture. I am fussy. I'm kind of weird in that I like the inside of my cards to be smooth. I don't emboss my card bases because I like it to be clean on the inside. So I always put a layer on if I'm going to be embossing. Okay, so that's all I did. I embossed it and layered it. There are a couple of leaves cut with the beautiful detailed leaves die. Okay, so it's the detailed one here and this pretty one here, both cut from copper foil. This little sentiment, or this little label, is actually just a 3 1/4 inch strip of Whisper White that I then trimmed using my everyday label punch. And if you're not sure how to do that, go back and check last week's video because I showed how to do that. Okay, then I added a cute little braided linen bow and a few little copper sequins. And that's all there is to it. Hope you like that one. Oh, thanks, Kim. I'm glad you like it. So that's it for today. I want to just mention that I really appreciate when people like and share my videos very, very much. And I like to reward people for liking and sharing my videos. So if you would like to, or if you like my video and share it, your name will be entered into a draw to receive a free Take Your Pick tool. So I do a monthly draw. So for everybody who likes and shares a video this month will be entered into the draw for the Take Your Pick tool. So if you already did it last week, if you entered last week, then you can enter again this week. If you like and share each week, you get 4 entries, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so that is the prize for this month. If you would like to place an order this week, my host code for this week is here. You can order at lenagursa.stampinup.net. And everyone who places an order of $50 or more will receive one of each of these beautiful cards. So let me just lay those out here again. There we go. And I will send you those 3 for free. Sound good? All right, I'm going to flip the camera just so that we can chat for a minute. See if this works. Actually, it's not going to work. Never mind. I'm not going to flip the camera because I'm going to end up upside down. So I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for joining me. And we'll see you again next week for Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.